All right, welcome to the next day for the Vets Elite Daily Vlog. Today I'm going to be just going over some strategies and ideas for youth training and why I actually think reactive training in the sense of the constraint-led approach is actually really good for youth training. First, the biggest thing with training youth is first, actually, you need to make sure you do the research on the back end about what is actually needed for youth training. The standard ones people just go right to, coordination, balance, flexibility, right? Yeah, those things are important, but it's more about the details about why those are important. And the main source I think you should go to at first on that is Coach Jeremy Frisch. He has a gym out in Massachusetts. Just look up his page on Twitter. That on top of something called the athletic skills model. Those two resources alone are going to give you the information and background that you need to be a better coach for youth and understand what is going on, when athletes are developing, and really what they need. Now, when you're talking about the strategies for like training youth, obviously balance, coordination, rhythm are some of the main things. But on top of that, you want to start to teach them through using the constraint-led approach. Now, you have integrity of positions, like the squat position, the athletic stance position, the split stance position, being prone, being supine, those type of things you want to teach, very concrete basics so that the athletes get to feel those out. They understand what it's like to feel parts of their body. And as it should be known, an internal focus of attention is not good for learning. It actually decreases performance. But when you're teaching the foundations to youth about movement, they need to have an awareness of their body. That's really one of the main goals of youth training, is to get these kids to understand how to move their body and manipulate their body by understanding their body through balance, through coordination, through rhythm. And that's where you can start to first build a base. You build a foundation and teach these kids how to maintain good positions, what good positions are, how to activate the right parts of your body to make yourself into those good positions. And then as you progress, you can start to add a little bit of the constraints-led approach and get some reactive training to teach decision-making based upon sport or representative sport cues. You know what I mean? Which, at the end of the day, really is other people in the human body. So what I'm talking about practically really means, for example, today in our youth session, we focused on the shuffle. So we started off or we had already taught, what it is to get into an athletic stance, what an athletic stance is, what you should feel, where your body parts should be, how your feet should be placed in the ground, when you're shuffling, how to move side to side, right? So we had already taught those basic foundations, and we did that verbally and had internal focuses of attention. After you get that established, and depending on your group, especially when you're looking at the age and even the athletic ability of the kids in the age group, that really depends on how fast you can progress to and how complex you can make the drills when it comes to utilizing that constraint-led approach or the reactive side of training. So, for example, if I'm having a kid learn a shuffle and I want him to push off the back foot and step with the front foot, not crossing over, not touching the heels, and I see that they're proficient enough with a verbal cue to be able to step the other way, and be able to do that without crossing over, losing their stance integrity, or touching their heels. Now what you do is simply just add in that reactive to opponent where you have them react to another stimulus. You get them used to doing that. We're organizing their movements based upon the movements of another individual in their environment. So, for example, I'd stand in front of these athletes, right? I stand in front of them and I say, hey, you step when I step. And we only go one direction, right? Because we're trying to keep it as simple as possible while adding some complexity. So now instead of me saying step and they get a really chance to think about it, right? They think, okay, when he says step, I hear step, and then I go to the side and I can really internally focus. Now what happens is I say, hey, you need to take that focus and make it external. So now instead of you focusing on your body, you're focusing on the movement in front of you. So that movement in front of you then is your cue to take back onto that movement that we taught. So you see me step to the side. That's your cue to step to the side. And now on top of that, now I can teach you where you need to have that external focus to have optimal success, right? So what I do, we step all to the left, step, step, step. I make it very easy. I don't give any type of I try to limit any other type of body movements except for me stepping, step, step. Then we go back the other way, step, step, step. Now we make it a little bit more complex. I start telling them, you have to follow which way I step, but I might step left or right? And then maybe I throw in, depending on how they're doing, throw in a little head fake, right? Now, what happens is if I throw in a little head fake, I can tell that their external focus of attention is in the wrong place, right? We are focusing on the wrong thing. So then, after you have had time to make the internal focus of attention sound, right, and you have them with a proficient ability to have their internal intent to externalize to the movements of their body, right, then when you go to the external focus, you decipher and you find out for yourself if they're doing that in the right way. So now I can see if they are focusing on the right parts of the body. So now instead I see he watches my head move to the right and I step to the left. Well, now I know that this athlete is focusing on the wrong things. And I say, hey, for you to really see what's going on, look at my trunk, look at my hips. And then instead of me facing them, maybe I turn around, maybe I turn to the side, maybe I move farther away, move it back up, maybe move out to the side. And then you can build the complexity from that depending on the situation you're in and depending on, space and time, et cetera, how many kids, et cetera. Then you start to build what this training looks like that's specific to the needs while using the constraint split approach. And what I found is that kids enjoy this way more than you sitting there demonstrating the perfect technique, right? Like you sitting there and trying to hammer in that technique for an hour. Those kids, you're losing those kids. You know what I mean? Today, in our youth session, we are in a room that is like a tile room. And it has enough space, but there's also other equipment there. So we have some bikes in there, and we also have like some boxing equipment there and heavy bags, right? So I decided to work on this shuffle reactive ability, but I was doing it one kid at a time, right? So one kid's going, another kid's going, and what I started to find is, all right, I'm losing these kids. I got some kids hitting the heavy bag, some other kids punching the heavy bag. I'm like, all right, I'm losing them. How can I apply this constraint split approach with an external focus of attention to a group of 6 kids? What did I do? Grouped everybody together, and now we have everybody focusing on me. We added another component with another coach just because I could afford to do that, where they have another aspect to the drill, made it a little bit more complex, and now we're working on even more movements, right? So you can use that type of training to rope kids in. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, kids are looking for fun too. Like, you know what I mean? You don't want to make this training so specific and it is goal oriented, but you don't want to make, this is what we're doing. Like, we're trying to get our goals. Like, kids want to have fun. Like, you know what I mean? You need to make this training fun for them. You want them to go back to their parents, to their guardians, to their brothers, sisters, whoever it is, and be like, I love that. I want to go back. I need to learn more. Like, that's how you want to rope these kids in, and by giving them drills that are competitive in nature and, playing various types of tag, agility, jumping, running, sprinting, and then you have certain times where you pick specific movements you want to progress and you progress them. Kids love that. You give them a little bit of challenge. You have times where you kind of calm it down. You have them focus, see how they can learn, and then you have other times where you just let them act. You let them react. You let them play. And I think that's kind of those are the best tips for youth training. And obviously, totally complex subject I could continue to talk about for significant more time, but this is just a little daily tip, daily log. So if you have any questions or you kind of want to talk this out, just give me a message and we'll talk about it. Have a good night.